Hello Zero Books readers. This video will ask the question, do we live in a patriarchy?
Kent, the only cigarette with a micronite filter. Kent Regular and the new king-size Kent present the story of a man, his home, and his family. Starring Robert Young and Jane Wyatt. With Eleanor Donahue, Billy Gray, and Lauren Chapin in Father Knows Best.
In order to answer this question, we'll look at excerpts and clips from three different thinkers. On the side of the patriarchy, both as an apologist and as a believer, will be Jordan Peterson. And standing against the patriarchy hypothesis will be Zero Book's own Angela Nagle. Jordan Peterson is both a strong advocate for patriarchal authority and an embodiment of it. For example, during an appearance on the Mark Steyn Show, he asserted that the patriarchy is Western civilization, or that when people on the left talk about patriarchy, they're talking about Western civ. Now, Peterson claims to object to the notion of patriarchy, but in reality, he only objects to the term when it is spoken by feminists. That is, he takes issue with the idea that patriarchies are necessarily corrupt, unfair, tyrannical, and oppressive.
Which is partly why I object to the notion of the patriarchy, because it's a it's the what do you call that? It's the apprehension of a mythological trope, which is that of the evil tyrant, without any appreciation for the fact that the archetype actually has two parts, and the other part is the wise king. And you can tell an evil tyrant story about culture, no problem, but it's one-sided, and that's very dangerous, because you don't want to forget all the good things that you have while you're criticizing all the ways that things are in error. That's a lack of gratitude, and it's a lack of wisdom, and it's founded in resentment.
What Peterson believes is that the judgments and willed activity of people with merit, who sometimes, perhaps most often, happen to be men, are what sets the world in motion. He argues that men really are in charge of the public realm. They do rule, and that the reason they rule is because the free market is a neutral sorting mechanism for merit, talent, and drive.
And you can say all you want about the fact that women have a difficult time with that because it's a male-dominant patriarchy. Any female lawyer who's hit 30 and is a partner that has any sense at all knows that's complete bloody rubbish. It's market-determined right to the core. What happens to the women when they're in their 30s? They all leave the high-end law firms. Why? Because who in their right mind would want to live like that? Well, men will do it, some men, very few. A handful of hyper-competitive men who are obsessed with hitting the pinnacle of the given dominance hierarchy they're in will happily work 80 hours a week, and they'll forego everything else. Relationships, family, children, way in the second category. And so those men are often very difficult to live with too, because they're so obsessed with their career. It's hard to have a relationship with them. And maybe they don't have much of a relationship with their kids, but they're damn good at what they do, and part of that is they're smart and disciplined, and they'll work non-stop all the time. It's like an obsession, and that's the sort of people who run things. Those are the people who run things.
On all counts, Jordan Peterson is wrong. Men are not in charge of the public realm, and the market is not a natural sorting mechanism for merit, talent, and drive. We don't live in a patriarchy because, despite appearances to the contrary, men do not control what social norms define our collective morality, they don't control the terms that direct our politics, and they are not the ultimate source of power in society. This isn't to say that men don't hold positions of privilege in most modern industrial societies, but rather that this is an historical or contingent fact. The productive relationships that shape our society materially don't rely on masculine authority in order to function. Instead, the power that structures our society has no gender. It has no sensuous qualities at all, but is instead entirely abstract and quantitative. And this means that if we're to be successful in overcoming gender inequality, or any other kind of inequality in our society, we'll have to do more than challenge male authority. We'll have to find out how this seemingly male authority relates to the real power called capital. And we should also keep in mind that the form that inequality takes today in a capitalist society can change tomorrow. Back in May of 2017, the feminist writer and author of Kill All Normies, Angela Nagle, wrote a piece for Jacobin entitled The Market Theocracy. In it, she argued that railing against traditional male authority is fundamentally nostalgic, and that it was a way to avoid taking on the real social problems we're facing today. People are pining after a time when the battles facing us were simpler and more obvious. Nagle wrote that while we might like to pretend that we're still living in the 1950s, might want to pretend that the nuclear family was still intact, and that an ultra-traditionalist, tyrannical patriarchal order reigned, this is no longer the case. Nagle wrote that the mythologies of our age in the West are not enforced by repressive theocratic regimes, but by the market command to be free, to be creative, to be flexible, to love what you do for even the most uninspiring jobs. Work flexibility and freedom from ties to family, duty, and hierarchical institutions has turned out to mean increased precarity and a race to the bottom in living standards. The promise of this vision has become a permanent CV-building career ladder leading to nowhere. One can easily accommodate oneself to the true power of today's society while continuing to fight this phantom called patriarchy. And there are more and more products and lifestyles on offer that promise to help women and men both overcome this or that personal issue or anachronism, while leaving the fundamentals untouched. One example might be third wave or corporate feminism. In her book, One-Dimensional Woman, Nina Power wrote that when feminism is reduced to a lifestyle choice or self-care, almost everything turns out to be feminist. Shopping, pole dancing, even eating chocolate. And she wrote that there is a remarkable similarity between today's liberating feminism and the liberation offered up by capitalism.
So easy. I just think of something that I like to do, and then the rest takes care of itself.
I dream of a world outside of this one. A simpler, gentler place with just us and the children. A world without men doesn't bother me. In fact, I welcome it there.
Well, that's not freedom. It's just nothing. But if I said, well, look, what we're going to do instead is when I move my arm right, you're going to move your arm right. So let's do that, okay? So I'm going to go like that. You're going to, good. And then I'll go like that. And then we'll have a little dance.
Too many liberals tend to agree with people like Jordan Peterson. They too believe in both the patriarchy and the free market. The difference is that while Jordan Peterson believes the market is a neutral sorting mechanism, liberals believe the market has become corrupted by some ill-defined outside power. But both believe that either political administration, or the lack of it, will fix capitalism's problems and create a just world. What nobody wants to face is how we've handed over our destinies to an abstract and inhuman system that operates beyond and against us. Even progressives are nostalgic for the good old days when the enemy was dad. almost all of us are nostalgic for a time when the social problems facing us were operating on a human scale.
And then we'll have a little dance. Yeah, so you can play a game like that with a kid instantly.